be a fun one. Champion Select has begun. Best of 5 to determine who is going home with a third, fourth place finish and who is moving on to the World Finals in a week's time. Jace off the table, listen the same.
For people just tuning in to the World's tournament here, Jace has been a huge pick for SK Telecom, mainly for the top lane, for Huni, and they have used it in its early pressure to split up enemy teams.
I absolutely think that the analyst desk had it right. It felt like SKT needed Huni on the Jace or on the Trundle to create the pressure because largely their bot lane was losing and mid lane was going even. So Huni was that pressure valve. He allowed them to get to the later game, to get the items up with his pressure. Banning away Jace in the first round is expected. No Trundle ban, at least in the first round.
Yeah, one of the biggest things coming into this match was, even though there's so much ridiculous history between these two teams, they've been looking very different here at this tournament.
I want you to notice something. Lulu is the final ban on red side here from SKT. Janna is available, but so is Galio. SKT are rolling the dice and saying there's 3 strong picks. And Sejuani being up 2. There's a lot left here. There's a kind of a bounty of meta picks available.
Plus, you need to take into the account that Royal actually have used Soraka into the Janna before, and everybody's used to seeing Janna first pick, Janna first pick, but they do have other options.
I want to note that Janna Caitlyn, the duo that really WE debuted and pushed forward, is available as an entire duo. Tristana has been preferred over it, but the duo power wasn't on display in quarterfinals because it was never available at the same time.
Also, with teams having more practice and more time to prepare against the early sieging strategy like that, that doesn't have an outlet valve for the late game, you have to be much more worried about opting into that. Plus, the Tristana has been extremely big for Uzi, knocking down towers in a similar fashion, and the Galio has actually put a stop to a lot of those choices.
The bans here are so interesting. The Gragas ban in particular is targeted towards Blank. Neither of the SKT junglers have found success on the Gragas this tournament. And with Caitlyn left up, RNG, with this pick and ban so far, is saying, we're taking it late. We're not going to try and emulate Misfits Pickstar. We're not going to try and emulate AHQ's Fizz Sejuani. We're ready to go late game, and they don't feel like SKT can close, so they're happy to go the biggest scaling duo of Twitch and John.
And as we said, Royal Never Give Up have shown different strategies before, but at this tournament, it has been them looking so much more controlled than ever before in the past, and playing to those late game team fights. You say that Misfits won't show up here in RNG's side, but SK Telecom have learned from it as well.
I think they're learning also. They see the extra scaling and they add on a variable that RNG may not have expected. They considered the Rakan by far the more normal of supports, an engaged support that can take the Ardent Sensor. SKT look like they're opting out of Ardent Sensor in game 1.
The ode to Ignar starts right now. SK Telecom with the first piece of Galio makes it very easy for them to craft a strategy around the bottom lane. Galio is the most important, where he could join super early on and provide that front line. You want to have extra pressure around a Blitzcrank pick. You never want a Blitzcrank pick to be left on its own in the side lane.
And so now it's up to RNG to realize what exactly is SKT's strategy. Are they still slaves to Ardent Sensor? Is it the Ivern, the Nidalee, the sensor users in the jungle role, or maybe a Karma mid like we saw out of some of the European teams as well? Or are they bucking the trend entirely, as we saw in their Game 5 victory in the quarters?
I mean, Blank has never played a professional game on the Ivern. A couple from Peanut, never from Blank. So already surprising. And Nidalee banned as well.
Yep.
So RNG is saying no Ardent Sensor from the jungle, largely no Ardent Sensor from anyway. Very, very interesting.
Now, something that hasn't come up before, but I did see in Huni's solo queue, he played top lane Karma, plus it could be a top lane Galio and a Karma in mid lane. So if they really, really had to dig deep for an Ardent Sensor, that pick would be available. However, it would seem like they would have a lot lacking in damage. With this profile, they've already locked in the Zac.
The takeaway and step back and appreciate, there is an insane amount of backline dive on SKT. Zac goes in, Galio joins him. Maybe Blitzcrank has already started the fight. Janna is enough to reset Galio. That was why I was surprised that Galio was prized over Janna. But when you add in other initiation options, there's just not enough. Janna cannot peel everyone away.
In addition to the fact that Blank himself starting here is an abnormality for SK Telecom at this tournament, and he has played Zac versus MLXG in the past successfully as well. So we'll see if they can pull it off again with the Malzahar answer though into the Galio. We have another switch.
And I don't even know which lane it's going to just yet. If it's mid or top, of course, top it should be good into Shen, but these are flex picks still. You've got to wait to see. Every single champion, aside from maybe Trish, has ways to get on that Twitch.
SKT can have the biggest disaster in bot lane for the Twitch, because suddenly every member of their team can impact bottom in an instant, just with the Gangplank ultimate into the rest of what they're doing. This is also the clearest win condition draft we've seen at all worlds. It's engage mid-game from SKT with some late-game options against RNG with scaling everywhere.
We have talked so much this tournament about the favored teams failing to innovate, failing to adapt. Yet SK Telecom here, right out of the bat, a big switcheroo in the champion select, whilst RNG are playing the same style that we have seen this tournament, and they have executed on it so far this tournament. It's up to SKT to upset that game plan.
Really excited to see the favorites coming in and turning it around. The Gangplank, I'm almost certain the first Gangplank of Worlds so far, bringing that one there. And I was wondering, like, when are we going to see more carry tops to fight against the tanks we're seeing constantly? Huni, no surprise the one to do it on this Gangplank.
I was actually expecting Gangplank, but against Galio in the mid lane, because Pawn on KT Rolster had shown that was a semi-counter pick to all the Galio. But this time it's with the Galio. Remember that Gangplank can often be turret dive. Galio can also try to relieve pressure there, so SKT really have a robust early to mid-game comp for certain.
We definitely need to highlight the areas where they can be taken advantage of. As you said, diving in the early game, it often comes down to jungler presence, and usually we're talking about Zach has to scale up, you know, doesn't have a very offensive look early on. Sejuani actually is a champion that can look for a level 3 play, whereas Zach gonna need some extra levels in the Elastic Slingshot. Freak, take us onto the Rift.
We are onto the Rift. The semifinals of the 2017 League of Legends World Championship begin right now. Royal Never Give Up, representing an all-Chinese team in their home country here in Shanghai, versus the defending world champions of SK Telecom T1 from South Korea, and innovation down the line for SKT.
Let us set the stage lane by lane here, because all of these matchups are incredibly interesting. And we'll start with the mid lane, Faker on Galio again. We saw this tournament how extremely proactive he was on this champion, ganking before level 6 with the roam and not getting behind in farm at all.
Uzi himself with an ode to that point, makes a visit to the mid lane.
They get some damage on a Faker, that doesn't feel too bad. Couple hundred damage down, he's forced to run right out of mid lane, and it's now too late to recall. He burns one of his 2 refillable potion stacks before the lane even starts.
Now, they won't put down any offensive vision here to complement the invade, but the matchup's a really interesting one, Corey. We've seen it once before at Worlds. Caps was playing it against Zhahu on the day, I believe it was there. It's a scaling matchup. In the late game, what this means for RNG is that the front line is vulnerable, whoever it is. Galio gets Malzahar altered with the percentage damage. It allows RNG to play how we call front to back. They can focus on the front line. Between Malzahar and Twitch, you can shred a frontliner from SKT. Now, shred is always a situational word, but given Galio, you actually do shred in the late game with how much percentage damage the Malzahar can do.
There are going to be some situational difficulties. Of course, Huni with the Origins can break out of Nether Grasp for free, doesn't have to buy Quick Service Sash ever. And Faker and Blank are going to be, we're going to love to buy Match Fest and buy an Adaptive Helm. Based on the gold values here, they can be invincible even to a high damage base like Malzahar.
And that will bring us down to the bottom lane, my friends, because once those solo lanes do hit level 6, we talk about supporting this aggressive Blitzcrank pick. So the Gangplank ultimate, while it can be used defensively for his own lane to clear out minion waves if he's getting pressure, can also be used offensively bottom lane in combination if Faker wants to get down there with the Galio. So that will mean a close eye. We'll have to pay attention down here to Bang and Wolf and how they do play this early game. And
it's going to be really cathartic for Wolf to be on the other foot, because consider, he was actually playing the Taric to the Blitzcrank coming through from Ignar, getting hooked at level 1, largely losing lane to the Blitzcrank, allowing him to be a playmaker again. Has to feel good.
Well, you talk about level 3 ganks on Sejuani, looking at that right now on towards Huni. Let me a bit injured, but Huni knows he doesn't have oranges. He got the barrels in the queue, and let me look for the time. He's going to land that again. No way out just yet. Let me get some slow. Here comes the chase. Lands the kill! First blood in the Chinese crowd goes wild.
Beautiful stuff from RNG. They confirmed that there were no oranges on Huni. He was level 2, hadn't skilled it. You're very squishy on the gangplank, too early for the Galio to bail him out. Big first blade for RNG.
Once again, it is MLXG to make the first move, but bottom lane they find a hook.
Good damage on half HP, but now they're out of cooldowns, and so Wolf goes down to half HP. The difficulty of all-inning when you don't have damage to back up the hook, you put in a shield and Uzi's got damage. Ming and Co doing a good job in that 2-on-2, though they are down farm right now.
Yeah, no big purchase for Huni. Started Sapphire Crystal, wanted a first item. Sheen wasn't able to get it. These trades, remember, they haven't played this style so far at Worlds, so the trades are always going to be a bit new. It's fresh on stage. This was perfect.
And a lot of the big, 1v1 advantages of game playing into Shen that we were talking about in Champ Select, come through with, yes, armor penetration and being able to use the orange to exit CC combinations. But that's why we highlighted the power of Sejuani going for a level 3 possibility of a gank, finding it there before Huni even gets a chance to skill the ability up.
I mean, the lane itself is very strong if the gangplank is left to his own device. In a true 1v1 with Blank providing coverage, then it's great, but Blank's on the Zac. You want to opt out of skirmishes early. You're not likely to be putting down defensive wards, killing the Scuttle Crab in the face of the Sejuani. You lose a trade if you use your E and you can't get out. So that was smart from MLXG to buck the trend of this tournament where he's been passive, to be a lot more aggressive. And speaking of aggression,
the flash and chase for Faker. They have the damage, knocks him back up. One more shadow duel, man. Doesn't need any ability power. Faker gets him down 1-1 so far in the game. Blank walking out cleanly.
Level 4 on Zac has the extra point in the elastic slingshot and comes to Faker's lane, the one with the pressure. As he's pushing Xiaohu under the turret, you can see there wasn't even any hesitation in Faker answering Xiaohu's flash there to follow it up with his own taunt, because of the fact that Blank already has the Q attached to him, and now Faker is on the prowl.
Wolf has flash, he can land one, Uzi turns invisible, Ming goes to the stop, and he buys some time. He still could have gone for the blind hook if he chooses to.
but we take a deep breath. That gank doesn't come off, but SKT have paid back in kind what MLXG was able to do topside. We wondered why Blank was playing game 1 and it wasn't Peanut. Remember, this is world skin Blank on his own Zac skin. He is the Zac player of this team, even though Peanut has played it before. He makes the work. You can see his record here. This is actually the first time since Peanut joined SKT that Blank has started a best of 5. And I sat back and said, why? Why now? Why not sit back? But I think largely it is about winning game 1, getting some confidence, potentially even silencing the very excited crowd is top lane.
Lands a flash, lands a slow, waiting for the stun against Huni. No orange to be popped just yet, taking a bit of damage. Lands a stun, but the taunt is on. Do they have what they need? Is the oranges out of that one? A couple more shots to duel man. And Huni to go 0-2. Here comes Faker. He's going to knock him out of LXG, and that's going to be spicy. Faker on his second kill.
The protection that you talked about with the Galio, level 6 comes in, and Faker is able to get the answer kill for Huni.
And he was only able to because Huni bought some time, was able to move back, held onto the orange, I believe, for a long time, got into range. Faker had the quick level 6 to Xiao, who went down, and answering there, and even controlling the minion wave to not lose creep score across the team of SKT.
He's out of mana, but let him get a decent trade. Probably shouldn't be able to kill, but at least forces some more farm to be denied. These last few minutes will not go to SKT.
And again, let's pull it back, because jungle ganks are exciting. Well, take another look at this one. First, as MLXG walks in, Huni's going to save his orange for the taunt, any extra duration here, but immediately he gets slowed back up.
You can see Faker also only now in position. MLXG uses his second Q to get the final bit of damage, so no ability for him to escape. A 1-for-1 overall.
Blank keeping up the pressure here as he invades with Zac. He is level 6, but MLXG has Smite and should be able to get it himself. Now, again, pulling it back and slowing it down, while jungle ganks are very exciting, what does it do to the lane matchup? SK Telecom, we talk about those double globals. Faker, with the extra experience, diving that turret, was able to get to level 6 so quickly that he was there before Let Me. He was able to transfer some of that power up to Huni, the lane that's getting attacked so